Welcome to the Yeah We Know podcast, part of the Morgan Knows Podcast Network. You're in the ring with Jimmy, Chris, and Rod. And I have a question for you, Rod. Is this, in fact, my brutality?
Is this, in fact, my brutality? Well, that's one of those questions that we could have probably a 30 to 45-minute different podcast about whose reality we're living in and what all we're supposed to do to affect our self-worth in that particular reality. But this really isn't the podcast for that. This is more just about Rhea Ripley making a return. And my only thoughts are I echo what I talked about. We have to figure out a better way to not squeeze out the ending when the ending might be the most important point of the show. All right. Well, we're going to have a return like that. You got to give me more than 15 seconds is all we got left of camera time on the USA Network before we have to cut away. My goodness.
Chris, they messed it up. I think they messed it up.
I don't know that they messed that up. Because you're left wanting more, right? You're left
because I saw her do something. That's why it's like, oh, she like kind of went like that to him.
Right. So now we have to come back next week, right? I mean, isn't that the greatness of TV, especially live TV? Leave on a cliffhanger, have to tune in next week because you don't want to miss what's happened. We're going to be shown that ending all night Friday night, right?
Yeah, it was.
They're going to be working that up constantly because everyone's going to want to see what happens Monday.
It was a lot of fun, Rod, because when I saw Dom go down, like, okay, I'm like, oh, how cool would it be if he's looking at her in the eye and her music hits and then her music hit and he looked up and Liv had a heart attack and ran away. I thought that was great, but I agree with you where it just didn't end right. I don't think it ended right.
Listen, we all love it when they can put up a cool, fresh graphic about how many impressions they've gotten on their social media channels about little extra storytelling bits that they give us all the time, right? Like let's shout back to Rhea and Dom, the old days where they show up over at the Mysterio holidays and get arrested by the police, right? Shout out to Dom being brought to WrestleMania in the back of a prison van. So we get that WWE social, but I shouldn't need to go to the WWE social channels to see Dom and Rhea walking back up towards Gorilla, right? I shouldn't have to go to the WWE social channels to see Liv Morgan reacting behind a curtain and peeking through and being ever so happy about everything that has unfolded, right? You should give me some of that on TV. And Chris, I totally hear you on next week. Let's move the story forward. But like, don't you want a little bit more for Rhea's return than just that few seconds? I guess that's all I was trying to say.
So I'm an old man, Rod. I don't go to the WWE socials. I don't know any of that extra stuff.
You know, those aren't parties, right? That's like
good one, Jimmy.
So I like that extra stuff I didn't necessarily need or knew previous to this conversation right now. So I didn't need it. I just thought it was great because, like, yeah, I know Liv's going to be happy. This is what she said she wanted to do. So, yeah, and I knew Rhea was going to be mad at Dom because that's what we expect. So it was perfect for me.
See, I don't know if I expected Rhea to be mad at Dom. Like, Jim, I'd have been fine if Rhea would have just immediately went in and just clocked Dom, right? I mean, honestly, if there's ever a time where somebody gets to clock, their significant other, it's when they basically walk in on them probably cheating on them, right? I mean, this is generally accepted across fits of rage, right? If there's ever a time where Rhea can just walk in, punch Dom, and Dom getting punched in the face pops hugely, that was it. And all we got was Rhea just looking at him and then credits.
I think when Dom looked down again and put his face towards hers, that is definitely an okay to punch him in the face. And honestly, that would have gotten, you think impressions are a big thing now? Think about what that would have gotten. That would have been amazing.
Can we just be honest for a second, though? Is there ever a time that we have seen Dirty Dom and he hasn't looked like he needs a punch in the face?
Well, I guess you're not wrong on that. So, yeah, that was one of about 50 amazing stories that happened over the past few days in WWE land. Chris, let's go to you. What is your big story that you want to talk about?
Adam Pearce needs to be sanctioned and let go from being GM of Raw right away. It has been apparent now, and he has let the cat out of the bag that this man has investigative powers. But what does he choose to investigate? something that everyone saw in that post game or that post show, the post show, the post King of the Ring show or the Money in the Bank show. We all saw it on the camera. There's no investigation needed. He doesn't want to investigate the 3 other times that CM Punk has just interceded and ruined a perfectly good heavyweight championship match. He doesn't want to investigate that, but he wants to investigate this other BS. He wants to double fine Drew McIntyre, but only fine CM Punk once. I mean, this is ridiculous. I've been calling for investigations. I just find this out on this last Raw that Adam Pearce has investigative powers and he's not using them correctly. He needs to be let go for derelict of duty.
Hey, Rod, I specifically did not listen to anything Chris just said because let me take a wild guess at what he said. He's mad at Adam Pearce for his treating of Drew McIntyre, who punched him in the face, by the way, I think, didn't he? Rod, but I think we're burying the lead here. Rod, I think you have something to talk about this Adam Pearce Drew McIntyre thing. Are you agreeing with Chris on one of his hot takes from a couple weeks ago?
I mean, I absolutely would be for an instant replay scenario. I mean, we all clearly saw a 1, 2, 3 being counted out in the match between Seth Rollins and Damian Priest, right? I mean, listen, Seth was a man, came in the ring, said botches happen. That's fine. Money in the Bank cash-ins happen. That's fine. But what are you doing in the ring, CM Punk? And Chris, I don't know if Adam Pearce is going to have enough time for all the investigations because they are going to have a new investigation on their hands where they're going to need to get some of the CSI folks from Las Vegas to investigate a body that was carved up by Seth Rollins in the middle of the ring, and that body was CM Punk. Seth Rollins took that boy behind the woodshed and beat him down in front of all of the people who just blindly chant his name for no apparent reason. Seth Rollins said, "You people are fools. This man is a dirtbag. This man calls for responsibility on everyone else except himself. This man calls for people, how dare they break the rules, but he breaks the rules, flaunts it, and then wants all of the attention." Drew McIntyre, he has plenty of beef with CM Punk, but I got more beef with CM Punk. Seth Rollins has beef with CM Punk, and this thing is building, and I absolutely love it. So, Chris, let's go. Pile the investigations on. Adam Pearce ain't got nothing else to do.
CM Punk apologized, Rod. He
Is that what he
apologized in the
did,
middle of the
Jim?
ring.
Is that what he did?
He
See, I
said
knew
he
you'd
was
come
sorry.
on here with this CM Punk garbage, right? This CM Punk garbage that the WWE needs to further this storyline because this man has done nothing. He has done absolutely nothing. He did nothing for 8 years prior to his return for the WWE, except people shouted his name throughout the rafters when it made zero sense. When it was a non sequitur, they just continued to shout and raise this man's name to the rafters. And now he is coming back, and all of these fans are going to reap what they sow. Is this what they want? Do they want this kind of chaos where this guy comes into the ring? You have no rhyme or reason as to what finishes are or aren't legit, and everybody needs to be on watch for whatever Phil wants to see happen. This is ridiculous.
I mean, it's almost impossible for me to take somebody seriously who calls himself the best in the world or the best ever. And I have seen him for half of a fight and he got injured and I haven't ever seen him again.
The CM Punk slander on this podcast.
Slander means something is false, Jimmy. Have we said something that's not true?
Well, first of all, he is the best in the world.
I mean,
no question about it.
I'm from Missouri. Show
Clearly.
me.
Name one wrestler better than CM Punk.
Chad
Everybody.
Name two wrestlers better than CM Punk.
Listen, I've never seen CM Punk
Dragon
wrestler
Lee.
except for one time, half a match, and he gets
Rhea
hurt.
Ripley, Dirty
Like-
Dom.
Literally.
Dirty Dom is good.
Yeah.
Give me Nick Mysterio over CM Punk at this point, all right?
Tom
Did
or
we
Nick?
hear Dom's like,
Come
that
on.
wasn't me. It was Nick. We all saw it.
Dude, Tom or Nick? What you want?
So is CM Punk getting heat though? Where would he be on a heat list right now?
See, that's the problem, Jim. You've hit the nail on the head, right? Guys like Chris and I, we don't like CM Punk, and so you'd think that storyline was building towards him being a heel, but clearly he's still over with most of the WWE universe. So I don't know, man. You tell me how they're going to paint this story.
See, I don't know, because I think with Rollins he is the heel, but with McIntyre he's still the face. Even though, all kidding aside, all jokes aside, for the old man, he is the heel in this program. I mean, he is screwed over. McIntyre made one mistake. He got cocky and talked crap to CM Punk after Mania. That's what happened. So I think he and Rollins are going to have. I was thinking, what are they going to do for Mania? Is it going to be Rollins and Priest again, or not Mania, SummerSlam?
No, you have forgotten this man every week.
Gunther is going to wrestle.
General.
Gunther is going. I guess he is. Yeah, he's going to wrestle.
They already showed us the promo. They're already trying to cut that for us as one of the things happening at SummerSlam. We know Logan Paul's going to be involved.
What are they going to do with Punk, and what are they going to do with Seth Rollins? What are they going to do with him?
I don't know if Punk can wrestle. Tell me Punk can wrestle, and then finally I'll book a card for him, Jim. But at this point, I have no idea if he can wrestle.
And Rollins can't do anything because he can't go for the belt again.
Is it McIntyre? Well, but Priest did say
he's got to go the belt against Priest, but he doesn't get the shot before Gunther.
So, but Priest did say a gentleman's agreement. We'll do something again.
As if Priest is a gentleman, though. Let's be honest there.
Well, we got to talk about Priest. So I don't know what happened. I'm thinking what happened was that McIntyre's music was supposed to hit on the 2 count and it never hit. That is what I'm thinking. That referee should have counted 3 and should have given the belt to Rollins. That's how they are in the past. That's how they've been trained. Now, that was under an old regime. You never know. However, storyline related, he did the right thing. And as you said, Rod, Rollins just saved it. He goes, yeah, stuff happens. We'll move on. Done. They never have to mention that again now. But that is 2 interesting happenings in the last 2 Damian Priest matches. Is this too much for him, or are we just going to chalk this up to stuff happened, or he might even been concussed? You never really know what happened.
I suppose, right? Like, we got to take a page out of the documentary that premiered on the YouTube WWE feed there over the 4th of July weekend, and think that Triple H is going to take some of this and make chaos come out of it, right? The fact that all of these people are mad about one particular thing that's kind of nebulous. Triple H lives and loves these situations, I think. So, I mean, Chris, are you okay if the ring general match becomes a triple threat match? Do you think that cheapens what Gunther won as King of the Ring?
Yeah, I definitely think it cheapens what Gunther did at King of the Ring. It cheapens King of the Ring completely, because then that means you don't get your real shot at a title belt. They are throwing these triple threats at us left and right lately, and sometimes I think they're a good idea. In that scenario, I don't. But here we go again. I know I'm patting myself on the back, but another investigation that needs to go into is what is going on with the ropes at these events, where we're seeing all these missteps that we didn't see a year ago. Is something new. Adam Pearce has investigative powers. I don't know what's going on there. I mean, we need a union for the referees, and we can get these bad refs that have these botches out of the matches. We need these instant replays so we can fix it when we do have these bad botches, and we solve all these problems.
Rod, what's your number 1 story coming out of this week?
My number 1 story coming out of this week has to be Rhea Ripley returning. I mean, it just absolutely has to be, because I was thinking to myself that, like, the women's ladder match, and we'll get to that, I think, here. Shout out to all of them for absolutely almost killing themselves numerous times during spots in that match. But there just was a bit of a vacuum in the women's division, right? Like, you just could kind of feel the absence of Charlotte Flair, of Rhea Ripley, of Becky Lynch, all at the same time, right? You could just kind of feel that vacuum at the top being there. And then with the Rhea Ripley's sudden reappearance and Liv Morgan's plan now being able to be played out, you're like, oh, finally, we have something with the women's division. And then even the mid-card on the women's division, they gave it a shot of juice that I was kind of like, do I actually care about this? I can't believe I care about this, but I might. We'll get there. But I think Rhea Ripley's the big story, Jim, because I think that elevates the women's division, which was in need of an injection.
So Shannon Baszler is not your number one story coming out.
No, but
from the weekend.
and she's not the story. Sonya Deville's the story of it.
Okay.
But Baszler, she'll get flowers from me, which is way surprising on this podcast.
So Money in the Bank. Drew McIntyre wins the Money in the Bank match after throwing a ladder in the face of Jey Uso. I thought that was kind of fun there. And then McIntyre said he was going to cash in. I never understand why someone cashes in during the middle of a match, though. That's the second time it's happened. Rollins did it at WrestleMania. That's okay. But this one was weird. I don't understand why he would have not waited until the end to cash in, Rod.
Well, doesn't it have to do with the fact that Drew wants to come out in the ring and prove to us how holier than thou and how smart and how virtuous he is all the time, right? So somehow cashing in Money in the Bank to make it a three-way isn't as cheap as just walking out and decking somebody with the briefcase and then making them count 1, 2, 3.
Well, he is a good guy, right, Chris?
Yeah, he is. Of course,
So,
he's the face. He's the face of this whole thing. He's the face of the WWE, and he can do what he wants to do when he has the Money in the Bank contract.
Well, then he should have done what I said. He should have walked out and decked somebody with the thing, and then just had him count to 3.
He's
got a little bit more class than you, Rob, because he's the hero.
That's what I just said. You weren't listening to me. I knew it. See, Jimmy, I could have told you that Chris not only puts his microphone on mute, but he puts his headphones on mute when I say something because of current relations between the King and Morgan households. And I think we just have audio proof of it right there.
Gosh, this got weird. Speaking of weird, John Cena is retiring. He's announcing his official retirement from WWE.
Not the biggest story. That's definitely not the biggest story. When's he
I,
retiring? What does it even mean?
We're going over the Money in the Bank results, and that happened on the show, so we're gonna just continue with that. Yeah, he's retiring in 2025 at some point, which means we get to see him at the Rumble, so that'll be cool. We get to see him.
I'm excited about that. Listen, it's a WWE Hall of Famer that I'll actually have a chance at maybe being able to see live, so I'm really excited about that.
Are you committing right now? You're going to the Rumble.
I mean, I don't even know what dates those are.
February 2nd, I believe, or 1st.
First.
Probably. Of course, I'm going to go to the Rumble.
It's like a 3-hour drive for you. It's not that bad.
Of course, I'm going to go to the Rumble in Indianapolis next February.
Okay. Those Lime scooters, though, they cost a lot the further you go, just so you know. I've had to use that before. I was going to do a horse, but a horse is going to take more than 3 hours. I'm sorry, Chris. Hey, who got the Sami Zayn?
You ever see Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid? You know that bicycle that he drives around that girl on at one point when raindrops keep falling on my head playing? Chris is actually upgraded to one of those kind of bikes, right? It's not like a breaking away, right? Like again, we'll reference Bloomington where Chris is. We're not talking about one of the breaking away, like
it's got the big front
bikes.
wheel.
Yeah, he's got the big front wheel bike.
Okay. So that's good. Who got the Sami Zayn Braun Breaker match right?
I think that was me, right? Aren't I the one that normally gets things right on this podcast?
You are pretty good at that thing, but I did it this time. I don't know why Sami Zayn won. I guess they want Braun Breaker to pay his dues, whatever that means, even though he's been in NXT forever. That was weird, and it kind of just... Now Braun Breaker is going to beat Sami Zayn at SummerSlam? I mean, I don't understand what happened there, Chris.
It's hard for me to care about this storyline. I want to be honest. Like, I would have been more interested if they gave it to Braun. Then I don't have this weird exchange then on Monday Night Raw either that just continues this weird thing that Braun has against Sammy. This doesn't, like, give me more of Sammy versus Gable. All right. Give me more of that. Like, I was more invested in their relationship in that fight. And I don't need a championship belt involved for that to be relevant. And here there is a belt involved, and I don't see it as being relevant until the inevitable happens and they give it to Braun Breaker.
Gable's got his own issues, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Rod, did this hurt Braun Breaker in your eyes at all?
Yes, I heard you in the back of my head as that match was finishing up. I heard you being like, damn it, Jimmy was right. And then B, I was like, Jimmy talks about this all the time. We did all of this time making Braun Breaker this incredible badass who just is absolutely rolling through people, right? And I understand that Sammy has a bit of a reputation as a giant killer and a guy who just absolutely doesn't give up. And, you know, I mean, fine. But Braun just all of a sudden sort of looked beatable kind of out of nowhere at the end of that match, right? Like that match just kind of was like a regular, just, oh, look out, Michinoku Drive-U and a Helluva kick, and Braun Breaker's all of a sudden done. And just the guy that we had been presented the past couple of weeks shouldn't have been able to just go down like that. So like you said, so now, okay, fine, he beats Sammy. What did it really do for Sammy to have the belt for a few more weeks over what it hurt Braun to lose that match, I think? So yeah, I don't like the booking there.
Speaking of booking, holy cow. Tiffany Stratton wins the women's Money in the Bank match after kicking Chelsea Green, who, let's be honest, should have won the match. We should have been right, Chris. We should have been right. Off a ladder into 2 tables. Now, those of you who are TNA fans will remember a very similar spot that Chelsea Green did in the past. So this is kind of her gimmick, but that was probably the 10th most dangerous thing that happened in that match, Chris?
That match was phenomenal because Rod was right earlier when he said the many instances of them trying to kill themselves, apparently. And it didn't matter who was taking the bump or who was giving the bump. Everybody was hurt after that. I mean, how long did Io Sky stay in that whatever backwards scorpion-like position, just screaming in pain?
Yeah. There were a lot of spots there, Rod, that were very dangerous, but that wasn't the spot it was supposed to be. A lot of heads hitting ladders that shouldn't have. It was kind of scary there for a little while, but apparently everyone came out okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's you know, the Michinoku driver spot with Io Sky to Zoe Stark. That's going to be one that you're just going to have to look at a bunch of times and figure out how in the world did her neck not snap coming down off of that. You know what I mean? So like, shout out to them for being able to pull that off. But you're absolutely right, Jim. I think where I was the most worried and where you could tell Graves and Cole were the most worried were random times where an arm would hit it when it wasn't supposed to, or they'd fall just short and then they'd go into it at an angle they didn't mean to go into it at. And then you could tell, oh no, right? Because like think of the most famous back injury in WWE history. It looks like Shawn Michaels cleared everything, right? But it's the way his back hit it just as he was coming down that just never was the same for him. So there were so many spots in that where I was just like, I was just screaming out in pain because I was like, oh my God, are they? And then nope, they just got right back up and did another move. So shout out to Naomi, shout out to Zoe Stark, shout out to Chelsea Green, Io Sky. I mean, there was chaos abound in that match, and somehow Tiffany Stratton came out on top.
You know who else came out on top, Rod? We have new tag team champions. DIY are the tag team champions. It's the story of the weekend. It's the story of the year. It's the story of my lifetime. DIY gets the tag team championships. They get the picture with Triple H, the awkward picture that they took back when they won the NXT titles. It's back again. Let's go. DIY. No, it was not on Money in the Bank. It was on SmackDown. I don't care. DIY.
You showed a lot of restraint, Jimmy, for allowing the podcast to go for 23 minutes before you got to this.
I didn't know where to put it in, but when you said that, I was like, I'll go now.
Yeah, this was a good spot for it. And listen, I was excited for you.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, it was awesome.
We were all excited for you. We knew that it was a big night for DIY. And, you know, I want it for the boys so badly, Jim. I want it for the boys so badly. But that place was kind of silent as they were coming out for that match. And that place was kind of silent after they won the belts.
First of all, go to hell. Chris, SummerSlam is in Cleveland. Guess who's from Cleveland?
Who's from Cleveland, Jimmy?
My boy, Johnny Gargano.
Johnny Wrestling.
Not Tommaso Ciampa, Chris. He's not the Tommaso Ciampa's not the one from Cleveland.
And
I'm not one to judge.
They are gonna go nuts for that, and I love every second about it. DIY is on a path now. They're on their NXT path, and I love it. And it's gonna be some really awesome matches moving forward, and I'm very excited for them. But let's get back to Money in the Bank here. We had the Bloodline defeating Rhodes, Owens. Shout out to Owens' mom and Randy Orton. Couple things. Number one, Jacob Fatu. Your thoughts, Chris?
Another investigation needs to happen because apparently Triple H is able to bribe federal governments to be able to get people he wants.
Oh, like legitimately legitimately, this is like real, by the way. Yes.
So like, listen, like if there's strings being pulled in some places, maybe we need to have a little bit more. We know they got investigative powers. I've been beating this drum all night. We need more investigation and oversight.
You want more oversight and control from a ruling body. Chris King.
I want separate but equal. That's why there needs to be a referee union. There needs to be oversight over the general managers. We need someone representing the wrestlers themselves. We need separate but equal.
You know what? Separate but equal, you moron. I love you, Chris. You're fantastic. No, like seriously, Chris King continues to be one of my favorite people ever, and I do appreciate you. I've lost all train of thought here. I got nothing, Rod.
Yep. Well, Jimmy DIY got you excited. All right. And that's okay. That's understandable. Let's take it back to the women's tag team belt, if I could here.
Sure.
For just a second. All right. And let's talk about how we have women's tag team champions that I believe right now the average WWE fan would not be able to name, near, pick out in a lineup, Jim. And that's a problem. That's a problem.
Well, they are beefing up the factions, so they're going to be able to get those moving more, and they have to bring up more women to get, like
you're
you
right,
said,
but
get out
this
of
is the problem with fan service sometimes is the reason I wanted to bring this up, Jim. All right, because
Yeah,
it was
I
a
guess
nice,
so.
wonderful moment when we gave these two ladies the tag team belts at the Clash in the Castle, right? Wonderful, great, grand for them. They get it in front of their homeland. Oh, yay. We haven't seen the belts on TV, and only reason we're excited about the belts right now is because it's bringing back my girl, Sonya Deville, Jimmy.
I like
Sonya Deville.
I like the Baszler Stark Deville trio, all tough, legitimate fighters. I really like to see where that's going. So that is awesome.
And they need someone that can speak for them. Okay. Shayna Baszler,
they
Zoe
do.
Stark,
And that's good.
speaking is not really what we need them to do a lot of. It's just not their deal. Let's leave that to Sonya Deville, who, let's not forget, spent a lot of time as a WWE official. She's a smooth talker. I love this new faction.
Yes, I love it too. Jacob Fatu takes the Randy Orton draping DDT. Gets up. Orton goes for his RKO and just looks up and said, "Oh dear." They're doing everything right with Jacob Fatu, and he and Cody is the big one coming down the line. But Solo gets the pin, and Solo and Cody will be the SummerSlam main event. And
Solo gets the pin on Cody. Solo gets the pin on Cody. Only the fourth person, I believe, I saw to pin Cody Rhodes since he returned to the WWE.
That's what makes that type of thing huge. Because now you have
does
a
it?
number one. Yes, it does. Yes.
Of course it does. But
huge.
My argument here, and I believe Chris is going to back me up. Chris, are you excited that the fourth person to pin Cody Rhodes was Solo Sikoa?
It's July 9th, 2024. And
spoiler,
I'm pretty sure that it's still Cody Rhodes versus the Bloodline, and I'm losing interest.
Well, it's a new,
and that falls into line with what Rod said. I didn't know nor care, nor does it change my thought process of how unbeatable Cody is.
Well, but it happens so few and far between, though. It is a big moment when Cody Rhodes gets beat. So then your ears pick up a little bit, say, hey, he could actually lose this title coming up.
It took him so long to even win the title. That's why it doesn't feel like that's a big deal. It took him so long to get the title. So it doesn't feel like he was this unbeatable juggernaut going through and unable for anybody to pin because it took him so long.
Juggernaut. He's only been pinned by 3 other dudes. Like, he is an unbeatable juggernaut.
I'm saying that's why he doesn't feel back. That's why he doesn't feel like he's an unbeatable juggernaut because it took him so long. That's why he doesn't feel that.
Well, Jim, I'm all for making people, right? I'm
Yeah.
all for making people, and Solo certainly seems to be a guy you can make. The family storyline, it's all there. I'm not against it being there. Can we get to Randy Orton? Can we get to somebody else?
I don't think we're getting to Randy Orton anytime soon, bud.
Randy, he got the fat shirt off. Come on, let's give Randy a little reward. He got the fat shirt off. He was even walking behind the guys eating, playing into the joke because Randy hears what people are saying. Come on. Let's get the Viper bad again. Get Randy bad again. Get Randy bad again.
Yeah, I'm with that too. I want to see a crazy Randy Orton. Give me a real person who hears voices in their head because I haven't seen that since he's been back, and I didn't get to see him when he was around.
He wants to hear the voices, Jim. They'll talk to him. They'll understand.
They'll talk to him. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I don't see where Randy's going to fit in over the next month.
Then what are Randy and KO going to do? This is the problem I think Chris has with the bloodline, and
They're going to go against
starting
two
to
members
realize
of the bloodline at SummerSlam.
Then
Yeah,
what do you
they
do
are.
with anybody else? Where's AJ Styles, right? Where's
Dead.
Bob Lashley? Has anybody
Dead.
put out a missing reports person on Bob Lashley recently? What are we going to do with Braun Strowman, who's back? Is he literally just going to keep running around? What are we doing with Karrion Kross in the Final Testament? I mean, is Kofi Kingston going to retire? What's happening, Jim? And now John Cena's coming back, supposedly doing something. Charlotte Flair hasn't returned yet. I'm worried.
Gunther hasn't been on TV for, it doesn't seem like he's wrestled forever. And I think that hurt Gunther a lot. I
don't know.
That
Chris, I think is calling for too many investigations, but I will agree with him on the fact that we can maybe move off of main people on the TV have to do with the Lafatu Samoan bloodline family. Like we can have other people involved in storylines.
Like Ilya Dragunov, right?
I'm going to start wearing fur on this podcast, I think. Honestly, I really think I was onto something last week with the fur. I love seeing Dragunov come down with the fur. I really just think I'm going to be just draped up in fur, and I'm just going to throw it around the way Dragunov does to just emphasize my points. And I'm just going to be a crazy intense and look at the camera with my eyes all bulged out and just be sweating everywhere. Do you think that would help our ratings?
I will say this. I think the fur is probably better, and I'm glad you're mimicking Dragunov rather than Rollins, because I don't think you can pull off Rollins' fashion style.
Well, he also those are like designer deals, man. Like I don't got that kind of that's expensive.
It's
stuff.
like feather boas. Don't
No, that's like a feather.
He's moved on. Think about it. He hasn't worn feathers for a while. He's doing these jacket things now and these pants.
He was serious on Raw. He was serious.
Yeah, he was.
Those heels on.
6.5 minutes. He did have heels on. He did have heels
He even mentioned him, which I thought was really funny. And with that, you've been listening to the Yeah We Know podcast, part of the More You Knows podcast network. You're in the ring with Jimmy, Chris, and Rod.
And listen, Chris is right about one thing. We need to show Gunther his proper respect. And perhaps all of this worrying I'm doing about what stories we have will fall by the wayside when the King General starts stomping people and slapping them in the chest, and we'll hear the echoes reverberate throughout the nation.
Goodbye, net. Yeah.